All right, all right, all right. Hey, YouTube, I'm Lucky, and welcome to another episode. In fact, a follow-up episode of a bit of Destiny drama. Now, a Bungie dev recently gave their opinions, and quite a controversial opinion, about teabagging inside Destiny 2. And if you haven't seen that previous episode, I will quickly cover it here so that way you're not completely left without understanding of what's going on. A Bungie dev tweeted out this, saying, "Teabagging is pantomimed sexual abuse. End of conversation." Now, that was tweeted yesterday, and that causes an absolute riot, a ton of controversy. A bunch of people were, retweeting this, responding to this, saying, no way, you're not going to compare sexual abuse in real life to teabagging inside a video game, hitting the crouch button on someone's, perceived dead body inside the game, okay? There's no way you're going to draw parallels to this, right? And so now today we have this Bungie dev actually deciding to respond and apologize a little bit here. I've read this response through and through, and it is quite an interesting one, and the drama will continue from this, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and dive right in. We have Bungie dev saying, "Elsewhere on Twitter, someone asked if teabagging is toxic, and I replied that teabagging is pantomimed sexual abuse. This was too terse a way to discuss such a sensitive topic, and some people thought I was saying an action in a video game was as bad as IRL sexual violence." Okay, off to not necessarily a bad start. Let's see what happens here. "If my word choice insulted any victims of sexual assault, I sincerely apologize. I did not mean to minimize your trauma, and I'm sorry for doing that." Okay, a sincere apology, nothing too crazy yet. "A better response," here we go, "would have been to say that when someone teabags, they make their character appear to simulate a sexual assault directly onto a player's camera, which is toxic." All right, now there's so much opinion being thrown in there, all right? I in no way have ever had someone teabag me or seen someone teabagging and had the thought that this is simulating a sexual assault, right? And if you have had that, let me know in the comments below, because that is a very wild and very weird response to getting teabagged inside a video game. Someone hitting crouch on your body in a video game, all right? Moving on, though, most of the time, that's not what the player means. They're celebrating a victory and asserting their dominance within the game, but they know what they're doing. They say they're bagging, not crouching. Interesting. Yes, bag. They do say they're bagging and not crouching. You got us there, Peter. Teabagging originated in games with limited capacity for player expression. Accurate. Halo, a game that you may have worked on. I mean, it was Bungie that made that one, and that's largely where teabagging came from, teabagging culture. Crouching was one of the only forms of expression available. It gained traction because it looks like you're rubbing your crotch on your opponent's face. Okay. I mean, I sort of see it as, that is the thing. Your character in game is putting their crotch in your face. But ultimately that's because it's a taunt. That's what I see it as a taunt. I don't really draw the parallel of, IRL crotches going into faces. But, continue on, Peter. That's why some people think it's funny to do, because it's the closest they can get in game to giving someone their middle finger. Of course, that's toxic. Now, again, another opinion, if teabagging is seen to you as someone giving you the middle finger, that's perfectly fine if you see it that way. But to other people, like, for example, if I were to match my friend in PvP and kill him, I would probably teabag him just because it'd be funny, and we have a sort of understanding of we're good friends. It certainly wouldn't be me giving him the middle finger, right? So there's a bit of interpretation going on here, and quite a bit of his opinion being given almost as though it's somehow fact, which is a bit confusing to me. There would be an uproar. Oh, here we go. There would be an uproar if a football player teabagged an opponent on the field. It's tasteless and disrespectful in real life or in a video game. Okay, first off, again, you are doing exactly what you said you weren't doing earlier, I believe, which is you're comparing things in a video game to things in real life. Okay, the two have no correlation, all right? What you do in a video game is very different from things in real life. For example, imagine playing a game like Grand Theft Auto. You're not going to do any of the stuff you do in there in the real world, right? So you wouldn't take offense to those things in Grand Theft Auto because that's the nature of the game, and that's the nature of gaming in general, right? And to compare this to a football player in real life, presumably tackling someone and then, doing a crouch on their body as they're laying there is a bit much, right? That would certainly be a disrespectful gesture, and that person would probably be ejected from the game and cause a huge fight. Because, yeah, that would be disrespectful and tasteless, but it's quite different in the context of a video game versus an in real life scenario in a football game, in a proper competition, in an NFL match, presumably, right? Moving on, though. The fact that some people don't think about what the motion really means or don't mean it in that literal way doesn't make it okay. Okay, again, stating his very clear opinion. Just like, oh, here we go. Just like catcalling is no less disrespectful if you mean it as a compliment. All right, again, you're comparing now an analogy or giving a metaphor of sorts to catcalling in real life is disrespectful, even if you mean it as a compliment. And teabagging in a video game, even if you meant it as a compliment, is disrespectful, right? Again, I give you the comparison, the analogy. If I matched my friend Dwayne, you guys see me playing with Dwayne all the time. If I match Dwayne in a PvP match, in a Rumble game, and I teabag him, it's not meant to be disrespectful. And just because you interpret it as disrespectful doesn't make it disrespectful, Like, context is very important, Peter. Context is very important, all right? Catcalling in real life is sexual harassment. I mean, very lightly, but it is sexual harassment. But comparing that to, something in a video game is just so abstract. I don't understand the correlation between the two. Doing the tomahawk chop is still offensive to Native Americans. Oh, now we're bringing, now we're bringing this into it. Even if you only mean it to support your favorite team. This guy goes on and on. Some people believe that since I pointed this out, I must be in an uproar about teabagging. I'm not. I roll my eyes and shrug it off when it happens. Oh, I'm sure, Peter. You're convincing us all with this 15-page twit longer here. But I also know the Destiny community can be so much better. Agreed. We see it all the time. In the extreme generosity for charity, the support given to disaster victims and sick children, or helping new players overcome an overpowered activity. Someone asked if teabagging was toxic, so I answered and gave a poorly phrased reason. I agree with this, though, largely. I mean, the Destiny community could be better, and if teabagging people with the intent to be toxic should be a thing that could be less in the game, that would be awesome. But you're not going to stop that. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to stop that unless you literally remove the ability for people to crouch in Destiny 2. You are not going to stop teabagging. And bringing this up is only fanning the flames of sort. I mean, now people are going to teabag more. I mean, simply put, it is going to be a more prevalent thing because of this. And when people know that they have power, especially when they're trolls and they're trying to upset you, if you let them know they have power, they're going to abuse that power. I mean, their whole point was to troll you and to make you upset. So they're for sure going to abuse that power. And I agree, the Destiny community and the gaming community as a whole has done amazing things with charity, support of disaster victims, sick children, helping newer players. The Destiny community does so many amazing things. And there certainly is a toxic group, and they certainly do teabag people. But I don't think you should let that affect you as much as you would if just an emote in the game, right? Just someone emoting in the game. I would think of it like an emote of sorts. Again, let's continue on here. Most modern games, including Destiny, offer emotes that provide more playful and positive ways to celebrate victories. We've outgrown the need for using crouch as an expression. I like this. I genuinely agree with what he's saying here. This is actually a good take in this particular tweet. We have so many emotes now, ones that are like taunting and ones that are friendly, ones that are kind. Every different gesture and emotion can kind of be expressed through the emotes. And so that is why teabagging has sort of taken on the role, in some people's opinion, to be just a toxic emote or a middle finger type of emote, because there's obviously nothing like that in Destiny. There is in other games, but there's nothing like that in Destiny. So that's sort of what it's been assigned, the assigned role of teabagging. But again, still, I don't see it that way. And I think it's important to just not give people that much power, right? If you don't want there to be a middle finger emote inside Destiny 2, right? Then don't assign teabagging to be the middle finger emote, because then it has no power. And if it has no power, then people will do it less. But addressing it like this and giving it so much power is doing quite literally the opposite of the effect that you're looking for. Moving on to the next part. People who have experienced sexual trauma should be able to play a video game without having that trauma literally shoved in their face. Okay. Teabagging is now a choice, a deliberate statement of FU, and a willful decision to be crass. All right. I have a serious problem with this tweet right here. I think that this is almost offensive at this point. People who have experienced sexual trauma, I highly doubt anyone who has ever experienced any sexual trauma, and I'm not speaking for everyone, is going to feel that trauma in the moment of someone teabagging them in a video game. I mean, it is literally just crouching in a video game. The correlation between these two is so wild. I have never heard a story or had heard anyone mention anything like that. And if there was something like that, if there were literally sexual trauma victims playing Destiny 2 and, you know, re-experiencing their trauma from crouching or teabagging, that kind of shit would be removed from a game, right? Like if that was a real story, a real narrative that's happening, this is just purely fiction. Like no one has ever expressed this. I've never heard this. It would be huge news. It would be a big thing that people are talking about. I've never heard this. This is fictional, and I don't understand where this is coming from. It's like he's creating this narrative that just doesn't exist to support his very clear distaste and hatred for teabagging, which, don't get me wrong, being toxic, I hate. I'm on his side in a sort of way in my dislike for toxicity, but we need to clarify, where is the line of toxicity? Is crouching inside Destiny 2 on someone's body the start of it, or the end of it, or even a part of it at all? I choose to just say no, because I want to take away the power from that. I would rather it just be, whatever, teabagging, not a big deal. But let's move on to the next part. Let's see what else Peter has to say here. Among friends, this might be accepted. In public games, it shouldn't be. Men in all areas of life are stepping up to call other men out on inappropriate locker room behavior that is often unintentionally harmful. Okay, first off, now you've gone even further, Peter. Now you've basically assigned all teabagging to men, which is totally not true. Teabagging is not an exclusive activity to just men, all right? There are women that teabag. Everyone teabags, all right? And so to turn this into its locker room behavior amongst men alone is a bit ridiculous. I don't understand this. I've definitely seen girls teabag. It's, you know, it's, especially if you perceive teabagging as being a taunt, it's certainly not a toxic act. Let's go on. Let's see what the very last part Peter has to endow us with, what wisdom he has. Teabagging contributes to a toxic, hostile in-game culture. I understand if you haven't thought about it that way before, and if doing so makes you uncomfortable, it's never too late to be better. Okay, great. So there it is. We have the wisdom of this Bungie dev here and his opinions on teabagging. I have to say, you know, I disagree largely with the majority of these comparisons and stuff. I think all that he's trying to say is that he dislikes toxicity, and he assigns strongly teabagging in Destiny 2 with toxicity, which it's okay if you want to have that perception, like I said, but again, you're giving people way too much power. Again, there's a reason why there's no middle finger emote in Destiny 2. It's because we don't want people to act that way, right? You wouldn't want people running around the tower, you know, flipping people off and doing inappropriate gestures as emotes, right? Well, if you don't assign things like teabagging or any movement for that matter to negative things, then those things just don't even exist in this world, right? So that's my argument. That's my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinion. We'll happily read your responses. Maybe you're on Peter's side in his opinion. That's totally fine. Maybe you're on my side. I'll be reading all of the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you did enjoy this episode of Destiny Drama. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.